All right, welcome everyone to the International Women's Day Bolt Virtual SpeakOut. We have a great and lively discussion ready for all of those who are tuning in today. And for reference, this year's International Women's Day theme is Accelerate Action. So if you find yourself at home on a Saturday wondering, what is it I can do to support women? Let's talk about how we accelerate action as individuals and collectively. So for some context, everyone, BOLT is a charitable foundation with the mandate and mission of supporting under-resourced youth in pursuing careers in construction and development. And Tridel is the principal and founding sponsor of the BOLT Foundation, and we are delighted and happy to help in furthering that mission as ensuring that we have a robust and strong construction industry to meet the needs of housing for now and for future is at our core and something that we deeply believe in. So for today's conversation, I'm joined by three wonderful women who I absolutely can't wait to delve into some of the nitty gritty and some of the lessons that they've learned through their own careers. So what we're going to start with first is some brief 1 to 2 minute introductions from the women themselves. So Agnes Watkinson, let's start with you. Let's hear your intro, get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Maggie, and thank you to Bolt and to Tridel for this amazing program. I've been following it for some time and just love the growth that you guys have been undergoing. So really appreciate it as a woman in construction. That being said, my name is Agnes Watkinson. Hi, everyone. I have 15 years in the construction space. I actually come from a construction family and then fell completely backwards into the recruitment world. Where I specifically fell into construction-based roles across Canada. I took over the practice and became I became a business owner. And so for 14 years, I ran AEC construction recruitment across Canada, and then I built it into the States. In 2022, I decided I wanted to exit my own business. So I exited myself out of my business, sold my business, and now I practice as a transformation change management practitioner. We're AMC Services, and we have 4 people on our team. And what we do is we go into construction companies and we help them with organizational development and design. So really getting to the root of untangling some of the complications that we're seeing with the people practices in our space. And that includes diversification and including women in the space. So that's part of what we do. I'm also the president and founder of a not-for-profit called Next Gen Women, where we have decided to help women existing in the construction space to elevate their career and give them the tools and resources they require to elevate themselves in the construction space, because I would love to see more women in positions of leadership as well as in ownership. So that's my goal with Next Gen Women. I think that's everything about me, but I'll pass it on to Sasha.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Bolt and Tridel. I actually was a recipient of one of the Bolt scholarships when I started in the trades about 3 years ago. My name is Sasha McDonald. Hello to everyone, and thank you guys for tuning in and giving us a listen, and hopefully we can provide some great information for you guys if you're looking to get into the trades or just inspired or anything like that. Again, Sasha McDonald. I'm a drywall finisher out of Toronto, Ontario. I'm with the IUPAT Union, so it's the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, so kind of covers an umbrella of a few little trades underneath that. And so I've been in the trades, again, I think this past February will be about 3 years. So at the end of my apprenticeship right now, looking to become a full journey person, get all my hours, and just looking to inspire those that are, like I said, maybe looking to get into it, whether it's trades or anything else. I'm trying to be that person to be a sounding board for anyone. And my background kind of was within a lot of retail management. So I find kind of taking that leadership position has been great, but wasn't as happy maybe in my career at the time a bit ago. And then I was led into the trades and I've never looked back. So hopefully you guys at home can do the same.
Sasha. And then Tina, over to you.
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much for inviting me to join this panel discussion. I feel so honored to be here. My name is Tina. I joined EXP in 2019 and as a field reviewer. So we focus on like building envelope reviews as a building envelope consultant. I'm a civil engineer. We specialized in building science. And right now I'm a project manager in building envelope rehabilitation group. So I just obtained my professional engineer designation last year on Halloween Day. So that's my biggest dream when I was a child. So that was the hello moment for me at that moment. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Tina. And just to close off the introductions, my name is Maggie Hall. I am with the social impact team here at Tridel, and we work on a number of different initiatives ranging from diversity, equity, and inclusion, Indigenous reconciliation, community economic development, employee engagement, and all those fun things in between. So really, really grateful to have been asked by Bolt to help moderate this discussion, especially with women who have such an array of experience, be it, on site, in the office, coming from, one sector and then representing another. So we're going to get into some of those, conversations around transferable skills, learning, listening, adapting, and moving forward. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm gonna start with maybe a harder hitting question, and Sasha, I want to start it with you. And I wondered whether you had any personal experiences or stories that you successfully broke through a barrier to get into this industry. You're sort of fresh in the sense that 3 years in the trades as an apprentice and moving towards that journey person. So what advice would you give to women who are in varying stages of their careers who are looking to enter into this space? And is there sort of a central story or barrier that you can share with us that you got through?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Excuse me, sorry. Sorry, everyone. So yeah, like I said, I kind of completely switched careers from retail management into construction. And other than say having to take leadership and responsibility, it's kind of just a complete change. So I'd say kind of breaking that barrier. When I first started in the trades, I started at my school that I started with for 3 months. So it's called IFSTC, Interior Finishing Systems Training Center. And within the first 3 months, you were kind of told there would be a number one apprentice kind of thing in the class. So I was able to lock that in. As soon as I heard it was a bit of a competition, that's definitely who I am at heart. I love that kind of aspect of it. And then I was able to start on site within 4 months, 4 or 5 months. And as soon as I got to site, within that first year, like I said, I'm still an apprentice now. And within that first year, due to unfortunate events with a couple of my members, they weren't able to work anymore. So I had to fully take over the taping on site. So that was a huge responsibility, I think, breaking through, because a lot of people maybe don't have that experience hopping in where they're presented with so many deadlines and responsibility right off the bat. So I was pleased just to flow right into it, took over, looked after everything. And that's when you have to like speak with the super, do everything on site and kind of go back and forth with everyone, work with all the trades, not just my drywall finishing trade. And for some advice of like women or anyone out there that's looking to do that, I would say speak with confidence, learn the fundamentals of your trade that you're looking to get into so that when these things do present themselves, because you never know if they will, you're ready to go. And also be able to take that constructive criticism very lightly, take it and use it and learn from it. Don't take anything wrong. Everyone kind of has their own way of doing things. And if you speak with strength, people will know that you believe in yourself, and then you'll be presented with those opportunities more as well.
Awesome. Furiously taking some notes here because you're sharing some good nuggets of wisdom here.
Talk a little fast.
So Agnes, I'm gonna pop it over to you, sort of with the same question. Unless you're gonna say that starting your own business, selling your own business, starting a nonprofit, was paved with gold and it was super easy and you had no barriers. But I have a feeling you're gonna say as an entrepreneur that the road is often winding. So is there sort of a story or something that you had to overcome that you'd like to share?
Yeah, there's actually multiple milestones where I've had to overcome, various barriers, and one of them really was breaking in when I first went into. So I finished as a CM. I was a construction manager for a luxury design firm. I was working across Canada into the States. I had about 25 projects under my belt. Like, it was wild. And just completely flipping my career into, which is ultimately a sales role if you're thinking about recruitment. The barrier there was, having as a woman to lead with my construction experience first, to even get through my foot through the door to say, I have value, I have something to give you, I have a service that I can provide to you. So that was, for me, a flip on its head because I had seamlessly integrated to my sites. I had a great site experience, great office experience. The practice that I worked for had about 24 women and we only had about 25 staff. So it was just a different approach to women in construction. But when I did flip into the recruitment world, I did find it was like I almost had to sell my experience first before I could sell the value of what I had. And then just most recently, AMC is breaking barriers right now, and it was difficult for me to recognize that I needed to let go of my previous business. That was a decision that was weighing very heavily on me, but I believed in a different thought process, to integrate a different thought process into our industry, or to give new perspectives to our industry on best practices, because I was working with companies, again, through Canada and the United States, and there were systemic issues happening at foundational levels with our people practices. And it was, for me, I'm sitting there saying, well, these are like easy fixes. Like, what can we do? And really the barrier that I have to overcome is education. I need to educate our clients on, like, what is organizational development, what is organizational design, and really sell something to an industry where I think they want it. Like, when I go and I do my guest speaking and we have these panels and whatnot, you can tell, like, they're resonating, they're engaged, but we have to sell them on, ROI, case studies, and we're talking about people and value and respect, and we're talking about diversity, we're talking about inclusive practices. That's become a barrier, and we're starting to navigate that a lot better with AMC to say, let's put the fluffy stuff aside for a minute. If you want to hear about the ROI and the return on the practices, then let's move forward with that. And that's been a bit of a barrier, is this educational component. So we're leaning really, really heavily on education right now. And, I think for us, if I was to give advice for women who are trying to break their own barriers, and I wrote this down because I really had a thought about it: embrace innovation, take bold steps, and remember that your unique perspective is your strength. So when you challenge norms, you will be met with resistance, but remember, it is your unique perspective that is your strength. So that's hands down something I believe in.
Very cool. So I definitely want to kind of like continue on that conversation, because obviously, Agnes, you have your own business which launched a year ago on International Women's Day. So yes. Yeah, Agnes. And Sasha, like I have heard from and have seen also the metrics that, women in construction, especially in the trades, the increase annually is something like 0.5% in terms of representation of women in the trades. So it's slow, but it's still increasing. And so, Tina, I do want to ask you, because I've actually had the pleasure of interacting with some of your leaders at EXP, talking about how they can get involved in some of the community economic development work, how we can, advance their goals of professional development, DE&I at the organization, very, very progressive mindset at EXP. And so, Tina, I wonder if you could just share, what do you think it takes to make a supportive work culture where women are able to pursue opportunities for leadership? What does that supportive culture look like, and what do we need to do in order to bring some of those other workplaces that are on the cusp of realizing the ROI, realizing the benefit of diversity in leadership? So Tina, can you share anything maybe from EXP on what sort of a supportive workplace?
Yeah, that's a very good topic. And I as you mentioned about the DEI program, and it actually stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So diversity refers to the presence of differences, such as who have different race, gender, age, religions, and disabilities. And equities, they focuses on fairness and justice. So including fair compensation and especially allocating resources to the groups that have historically been disadvantaged. And inclusion is creating an environment where all employees feel their voices being heard and we feel being valued and supported, then it tends to have a better sense of belongings and integration. So, and then we believe in that. So we have like different programs that ensure us to share our thoughts with senior engineers and associates. For example, we have this a mentorship program. Like in our group, my managers can sit down with us in a one-on-one meetings, like in bi-weekly basis. So it's actually for him to connect with all group members individually, and we can talk about our well-being, discuss about work accomplishments and challenges. So it goes through like a general review regarding the workload and goals, and it basically opens the floor for any of the feedbacks and encourages you to give any ideas and suggestions. So I think like this kind of program, it can connect young professionals with experienced leaders, and it allows us to learn from them and gaining more technical knowledge and also leadership skills. I think this is very supported and very essential, especially for young generations, because we feel we are connected and we are supported. So it makes me feel like I want to stay in this industry, and it makes me feel more powered and more confident to speak up and share my thoughts. And like we also have this like Iron Club where we invite all the EITs, engineering trainees, professional engineers and senior associates, so we can, share our experience and insights. So I think this kind of program, it bridges the gaps between the generations, and it just fostering a sense of belongings and just make us feel valued and supported. So I think that's very valuable programs in my opinion, and I think it's just worth to be shared with all of you guys.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna put a pin in that one. And I wrote down sharing is caring. So we're gonna come back to that in a second. But so Sasha, I was sort of mentioning that particularly on site. Like, I mean, I think a lot of construction and development companies, you are seeing sort of almost like a 50-50 split in terms of women who are in head office. But then when it comes to site, that number kind of drops. So what I would love to know from you is, in your experience, what are some of the good examples that you've seen, on site or with your colleagues of a supportive workplace culture? Like you mentioned how, knowing, for lack of a better word, knowing the tricks of your trade, and being able to speak like confidently and confidently about that work, earns you that kind of respect. But from your perspective, what are some of the signatures of a healthy workplace culture, particularly for women and young women?
Especially on site, like you said, the numbers are very low. Normally, if I'm on site, I'm either the only, or I think the most I've ever been is one of 4 on site of like 100+ men. So obviously that's the huge difference in ratio there. Something I think companies or anyone that's looking to kind of create that safe space for women and get them involved in it as well is, for example, for me, when I first came into the trades, my team was very receptive, very respectful. I know we've all heard kind of the horror stories, and I fortunately didn't have to go through those as many as other people have. And I think that's maybe why I've taken to the trade so much better, with more confidence, and like absolutely love it. Where I know a lot of people have even sent me messages with their examples and kind of asking me maybe how I got through things like that. So for those cases, I didn't really have a direct experience in it. But like I said, coming in with my team, being very respectful that way. If anyone ever did, which it did a couple times, say someone said something a little offside on site, my team right behind me, ready to pull them aside. They didn't make me feel awkward in that kind of confrontation, they would pull that gentleman aside and kind of talk to him, let him know, hey, this is maybe not what you should be doing. You can approach it this way or that way. So for those companies that are looking to create that inclusive space, I would say definitely suggest like it's a team effort. So we need to not just from the women be representations for us out there, but like for the men, because the population is so high on sites of male figures out there, they need to step up and make sure that they're the ones that are spreading the word, learning and teaching other young men coming in or the older men that are in it that we all need to be involved on this kind of, like I said, team effort kind of idea. And in order to do that, I also think if the company does have a chance to, if they could place women in those leadership roles as well, it creates that different dynamic where those coming in get to see like, oh, there is potential for me maybe to hit that point in the company, or that also creates a different vibe on the team, showing that to the male coworkers that we are here to stay and we can do the exact same jobs as you as well. So just for me, the main thing was that safe space that I experienced that really, really created such like a great career for me so far, I'd say.
Awesome. And I mean, I'm super happy to hear that, your experience has been a really good one. And, things that I'm hearing are around allyship.
Yes.
And so Agnes, I'm coming to you next because I when we were sort of chatting just a little bit before this discussion started was around change management. And so funnily enough, we talked about this actually in last year's panel around how women in construction, you can't have that conversation without talking about men in construction. Because our relationships and our interactions sometimes are defined by the other. And so, Agnes, I'd be curious from your perspective, when you're working with construction companies on change management, what kind of things are you imparting or suggesting for companies specifically on, not only building up women and putting them in positions of leadership, because you're 100% right, Sasha, that does change the dynamic. When you see it, you can be it. And so, Agnes, from your perspective, change management wise, what kind of lessons or without giving out your secret sauce, because we still want people to hire you, you're not giving things for free here.
Yeah, for sure.
So what kind of things are you sharing and helping to grow construction companies when it comes to engaging men in this work?
So I'm going to give you two examples. So the first example is a very personal example, and I actually thought whether I was going to share this or not because it does make me uncomfortable, and it's something that I battle actually frequently in this space. One of my significant issues that I have as a woman who is soliciting for work in this industry is the blurred lines between what is professional and what is personal. So when I go into, for instance, like a first case meeting, or now I'm just starting like the startup of a conversation, business development, whatever the case is, and this is something if men are watching this, please recognize like this is the way in which we have to assess the situation. Is I have to do a deep dive and assess whether that individual on the other line is looking for a professional connection or a personal connection. And it's tricky because I sit there and I do my best to be professional. I do my best to, like we talked about, like lead with education and lead with everything in terms of like being a professional here. But sometimes the reciprocal back is an expectation of like, oh, let's go for drinks. Oh, let's go and, like the next thing I know, there's texting coming back and it makes me uncomfortable because I recognize that you would never have done that to another man. You've never had to put them in a position where they have to almost like, again, blur that personal line, that professional line, just to get your business. So if there's men listening to the call, like please be respectful and treat us the same as if you were to treat a male counterpart for specifically when soliciting for business. Again, I couldn't speak to working in a corporate setting in that sense, but that is absolutely something I come across almost weekly. So, when we're talking about sexual harassment, discrimination, I wouldn't say that it's as far as that or as intense as that, but it is damn uncomfortable when I have to then shut down a conversation because it has blurred that line, and I am no longer confident that you are looking at AMC services or my team specifically for business. You're actually looking for something else. And and like I said, I'm really uncomfortable talking about it, but it is a weekly occurrence. And I think that is education, like you were talking about men speaking with other men, saying like, maybe we should treat the ladies a little bit more professionally and assume that they have professional services and values that they can bring to our industry. And unfortunately, that's something we still deal with frequently, but there are absolutely a ton of gentlemen and individuals who ally with us, who promote our services, who speak about what we do in a very, very professional manner. So I would say majority of the time we're dealing with allies and incredible human beings. And not to say we're not dealing with other types of individuals on the other end. It's just more like maybe think about it first before you decide to text and send that message that has again blurred that line. And now you've made me uncomfortable as a woman soliciting for something else. So that's one area. And again, I wasn't sure how I was going to frame that, but I just felt, let's just be candid, because it is something I come across frequently and my team does frequently. And then the other side of the table is I find when we work with organizations, there's a lot of generally generational bias. So for instance, if you've got a company that's been around for 30, 40, 50 years and predominantly is going to have male owners, business leaders, executives, etc., generational bias refers to the ways in which we are passing down our biases. So if we've been working in, with tons of male leadership and etc., what we have to recognize is women have to navigate the corporate space much differently than men. So for instance, and I actually have it here, negotiating at work. This is a women-based negotiation tactic book. It's been created by two psychotherapists who studied about 50 years accumulated together with how women have to actually navigate male-populated corporate settings. And we have to navigate quite differently than men because the perceived perception of what women in the space is quite different than what a man in the same counterpart is. So for instance, I might have to negotiate for maternity leave. Which as again, male populated leadership, they may not have considered that unless they, got a built out HR department and such like that. I may have to come back to you and say, hey, I might have to take some time off. My parents just got sick, and women are predominantly the caregivers. So there's just a lot of different perceptions, especially when we're dealing with maybe some ingrained biases in organizations that you don't even know you have. And I love when we speak with clients and we speak with our clients, when they start to recognize those structures that have been inherently placed within their organizations and the patterns that are building, that they have the ability to take them down. They have the ability to be introspective and to look inside of their organization and say, are we doing this automated? Can we look at a new framework where women will have the ability to come up through the ladder? And I love having those conversations with our clients, but those are kind of two examples where I feel that we can be a little bit more we can look at the perception of what women in our space looks like and how we can add those values.
Thanks, Agnes. And that's like real talk. That is the reality sometimes of women in work. Like, yes, there's male dominated industries, but women in work. So thank you for sharing that. And Tina, it's really interesting. I'm remembering our conversation ahead of this panel where, and it's funny, I actually didn't really, we're all talking about things we didn't want to talk about. So one of the things was, how the realities of being a woman, whether it is sort of the expectation as a caregiver or your role as a mother. And I was like, man, we get asked about this enough. Are we going to ask the men about this at some point? But Tina, I think something that I would love for you to sort of explain keeping in mind that there's a lot of like girls who are probably tuning in and young women who are like, how do I get into this industry? Like I want to succeed and I want to, take my space. I wonder, Tina, if you could just sort of share some of the wisdom that we talked about ahead of time, around what your experience has been and the importance of asking for help and taking your space and asking for help. So yeah, Tina, can I pass it over to you of sort of, from your perspective as an engineer, what does that look like for you?
Yes, I heard from like the Agnes bring lots of thoughts to it, and it kind of reminds me of what I started in my career. Like I was on site most of the time doing the site reviews as a consultant, and like I have, especially for this male-dominated field, like I need to talk to the foremans and site supers about like what my observation is, especially what is my findings, which deviates from the original design, and I tend to receive like a disagreement, like a lot. Like they try to criticize me, like in a way that makes me feel what I'm thinking is wrong. And I was speaking with my coworkers, and a lot of male coworkers, they don't have kind of issue as I do. But I know that was not the case, like because I was prepared. I doing lots of extra effort. I studied. I know what I'm doing. So when they raise the questions, I can show them what is my references. I can show them the details, the specifications. So they look at me differently, and then they trust my professionalism. So I think people may raise consciously or unconsciously biased because of your gender, but I think for myself, I'm focusing on what I'm doing. I trust myself. I be patient with myself. So when you approve your professionalism, it doesn't really matter how they're looking at you. It's what you want to say, what you want to say. So like for me, at early age of my career, I was kind of struggling with this a lot, but I was talking to my mentors. I was talking to my coworkers. They actually gives me a lot of valuable advice and encouraging me to focus on what I'm doing. I think that's very valuable. But I think at this moment of my time, I'm also have like different kinds of challenge. For me at this moment, I'm quite challenged with balance my work and my motherhood. I have two very active, cute little human beings who requires a lot of attentions, but alongside from that, I have my professional duties I have to accomplish. So sometimes I feel overwhelmed and somehow stressed about balancing between those. But I think you just need to be patient with yourself. You have to know what your priority is, and you make decisions. You just trust yourself that things will fall into places. But you never shy from, seeking for help. That's not a sign of weakness. It's rather than, the pathway towards your success and your achievements. So in that perspective, I think like everybody, just especially women, you have to make time for yourself. You have to think what your goal is and just focus on what you're doing and be patient. One step at a time.
Yeah. And I keep coming back, Sasha, to, when you talked about sort of, it's almost baptism by fire sometimes, where, most of the times where we grow, it's not because we were able to sort of wade in and, adjust to the water. It's you're tossed into something and you have to figure it out. Totally. And I think the importance, and Tina, hearing what you're saying about asking for help, Agnes, hearing what you're saying around, I have all this construction experience that I'm bringing to bear when I'm looking for new clients. And then Sasha, what you're saying of, I have the knowledge, I just have to do it. And I didn't choose for, some of my colleagues to not be able to work and to get the job done. I didn't choose to have to, take on that leadership myself, but here I am. And I think that's one of the things that, for girls and women, how you build confidence is by knowing your stuff in and out. That, it probably takes us a little bit more preparation than others might have to do. Maybe some people are very open, and some people are don't have that same kind of bias, but some do. And I think the importance of knowing your stuff. and being confident in what you're learning. Using critical thinking, that like there's theory and then there's application, and it's how you apply your unique frame of mind to that particular problem. That's where you add value. So, Sasha, I just wanted to touch on quickly this idea of mentorship, because you know, I think we're all very young. We all take care of our skin and everything like that, right? So this idea of generational thinking, where you have sort of traditionalist or boomer mindset, and then, you know, for some of the girls who are on the call, you're Gen Z or Generation Alpha. We've gone from Z to A. So, you know, we all think and we all learn differently. And so I just want to ask you, Sasha, in particular, whether you've had, you know, mentors who are from different generations, and kind of what have you learned from them, and what are you hoping to download on sort of that next generation? Because we're talking to Gen Z and to Gen Alpha who are thinking about getting into construction. And mentorship is so important. So I'd love to know whether you have had, you know, that mentorship kind of experience and what you would download as a future mentor.
Yeah, for sure. So specifically, say within the trade, I am a millennial, and my main mentor, I believe she actually forwarded you my name for this panel, was Christy Slade. She is one of the first women union reps for IUPAT. So shout out her as well for breaking barriers that way. So I believe she's within the same range as me, a millennial there. So learning from her, learning that she just, like you said, kind of just got thrown into it. She jumped, took those chances. But say for generational, honestly, I'd say support wise would be like my mom. She was always someone who pushed me to do my best, told me doesn't matter what other people think. If you like this, do it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. Like, don't give in to peer pressure. Do exactly, like, stay true to your morals. And that's something, at least for within as we know, like we're talking about the numbers in the trades, there are not very many women out there. So for me personally, I didn't know someone who maybe was in that next generation above mine, in the trades to kind of teach me those ways. So I was very grateful, like I said, to have my mom on the outside of the trades, and then Christy, who's in it around the same kind of age I am. And then that leads me to like why we need to do this and why it's so important for people like that. Because I didn't specifically have someone say in the next generation in trades that I could like look towards and ask them about maybe the previous years and things like that, where now hopefully me and other people who are in my position can be that proper mentor and be able to support, provide the questions, be an open book. And it is so important, like only a woman can understand what we go through as females in the trades or in any other kind of situation at a workplace and in career. So example would be like panels like this, I think are so important to get the word out. Like I said, kind of break the barrier between us and them and let them know, like, even for me, like I present myself, I chose to do put my work out on social media. So I mentioned before, but a few women have reached out to me, young girls or women my age or older, on how I've dealt with certain situations, how I got into the trades, whether it's my specific trade or other trades like that too. So just being an open book and having that mentorship in place, I think is such a very, very crucial thing in order to change the dynamic on work sites and other careers as well, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Sasha. That's awesome. So Agnes, if you actually would like to take this opportunity to talk about, you know, Next Gen and the nonprofit that you started, and because I think that is centered around, you know, sharing of information, sharing of experiences. So maybe, do you want to just quickly talk about that to the folks who are tuning in?
So when we started Next Gen Women, I did have an extensive network of incredible women who are in the industry, in different executive roles, including entrepreneurial roles. And so we had come together and we said, like, how many of us had mentors? Like, how many of us had people that guided us through? And it was less than half of my board. And we recognized, like, absolutely, there would be a gap for women to have mentors in the space. And that would probably be, you know, I would say linked to the fact that there's just not that many women in positions of leadership to give us that representation. So one of the things that and so thank you for throwing this over to me. One of the things that I'm really trying to advocate for with Next Gen Women is creating mentorship programs of quality. So we actually take all our mentors, men or women. We really don't differentiate. We need mentors. So we have them go through an application process. We learn about them and who they're looking for, because I do believe a mentorship relationship is reciprocal. So you will learn from your mentee and you will give wisdom and knowledge over to your mentor. So we want value out of that relationship, that reciprocal relationship. And then we have our mentees register and we do our best to match what they're looking for. So we really don't throw people together. It's really a conscious decision. All our mentors have to go through training. So my husband's a performance coach. He actually works in the construction space as well on team leadership development and building. And he's created a program where all the mentors go through an educational and reflection period on, like, why do you want to be a mentor? What are you trying to get out of this? What are we looking for when we're speaking with our mentees, so we can give them the best value out of this relationship, and it can be a holistic relationship. So again, we really go over quality over quantity. And the step further that I would love to take, and I talked about this in KWIC, so Canadian Association of Women in Construction, interviewed a number of women, and I was interviewed for a magazine article about mentorship. There is a second step to mentorship. That's sponsorship. So mentorship is, we are talking together. So you're talking about me, or you're talking to me, right? Like, we're having this conversation and you're learning my deepest, darkest thoughts and all that, and we're having this relationship. Sponsorship is you talk about me. I don't have a seat at that table. I need somebody who's got their eyes and ears open, who understands who I am and what I do and what I could do. I need them to advocate at the table for me. And I feel that's where women get stuck, is we get stuck in the mentorship. It's almost like a lot of the young women that I speak to that comes through Next Gen Women, including in my network, it's very clear they're over mentored. They've got so much mentorship going on, or they're looking for mentors, but we haven't heard the voice at the leadership table to advocate for the opportunities. Even if they might not have full qualifications, it's still giving them the opportunity to try. And that will elevate them into the space. So again, for anyone on the call, man or woman, or young or tenured in their career, mentorship is one piece of the puzzle, and it's incredible and it's amazing. But let's try to have that voice when you see the opportunity, and you kind of click in that, oh yeah, I've got this young woman, or whatever the case is, to voice up, because they can't put the voice there. They can't advocate for themselves at the table when the opportunities are presented. And we need to establish a bigger network around that. So that's my whole thing on mentorship. Sorry, got on a soapbox there for a minute.
No, that's awesome. And it gives me lots to think about. We actually just at Tridel just launched our Tridel Elevate mentorship program. And we're piloting the initiative, and we're starting actually with women leaders. So that launches around this International Women's Day. But our intention is of course to be welcoming, because professional development is professional development. So regardless of whether you are, a woman employee wanting to be mentored by a male employee, or vice versa, et cetera. Like the sponsorship piece, I think you're so right. It leaves you, mentorship sometimes can leave you with a now what, and it's so important to have a mentor who advocates on your behalf and puts your resume and your application in that pile when you don't even know that pile exists. So
yeah, exactly.
So fantastic point there. We're coming up to sort of those last words, and one question that we did not send in advance, but I feel like I'm gonna alley and you guys are gonna. So Tina, if I can ask you, if there is one skill, professional development skill, character attribute that you think is so important for the girls who are listening today. Some of them might not even be thinking about their career, but these are still things that you can use in high school that are just going to build those strong foundations for going forward. So Tina, what is that one skill set that you think is really valuable for girls and young women who are coming into the working world? Go.
That's a very good question. The skill set to the young woman who just come to the industry. That's a valuable question. I didn't think about that before. Yeah, what's the advice
Got that one in.
to younger me when I first joined the companies? I think critical thinking skills is very important. You have to think of things that always have two sides, right? It's not always that what you see, it's what people um I don't know how to say that, but you have to think there's always two sides of coins. Uh, and then, try to have that critical thinking and always believe themselves. I think that's very valuable to me.
Yeah, and maybe you've heard of this, Tina. I think this was started at Toyota of the 5 whys, that they would always sort of ask themselves why 5 times whenever they were answering a design problem. And that would help them get to the root of an issue. Like you're saying, there might be two sides to every coin, but there's also like that devil's advocate aspect. There's all these other extenuating factors. So critical thinking, I think, is so important and is to bring that creativity to a problem. That is the value that we bring, is the difference and diversity of perspective. So good answer. Sasha, what would that be for you? What would be that one skill?
For me, I'd say the one skill would be to be able to take initiative. For me, it's definitely boosted me up a lot on site, to whether we're carrying mud up and down the stairs, especially as a woman, sometimes they kind of like, whether it's in a nice way or not, they kind of just like, no, don't worry about carrying that. And I'm like, no, I got it. Throw it on my shoulder and I'm walking up the stairs with you boys. Like, we can do the same things, it's fine that way. And then taking initiative, like whether it's cleaning or whatever it was, something, hopping on a really high up task or anything like that, like proving that you're willing to do the work and that you're willing to show up, try. You may fail, and that's okay too. And a lot of people were in your position and new to the trade or on site or whatever career it is. There was always someone in your position too. So remember that. But I'd say taking initiative and just putting yourself out there, being willing to try, fail, hopefully succeed in that as well. But just saying yes to every job, whether making sure it's safe, especially on site in that sense. But yeah, just say yes to everything and just take a jump at it. Why not take the risk, I say?
Yeah. And we hear that time and time again, especially for Bolt youth who are interning or doing job shadowing at our sites. One of the things that we ask people who are kind of monitoring them or who are responsible for those candidates is, how were they on the site? Did they get what they were told?
Yes.
Were they doing things? The ones who succeed and who find placements are the go-getters. The ones who take every opportunity as a learning opportunity. Again, safety being in mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, who ensure that they are taking every opportunity and maximizing it. So Agnes, you are the last one. What do you think? Most important skill?
Honestly, Sasha, I totally resonate with your sentiment, because I had written this down and thought about it a little bit, but go down the rabbit hole. Like, I always say enjoy the journey, not the goal. The goal is just where you're generally shooting towards, but you really need to enjoy the journey, because it's on the journey where you're going to have the opportunities to provide initiative, to have agency, to just explore experiences. And I think that's what life is all about. But if we're so focused on the goal and like that linear, like that's where we need to go, I find people put blinders on to all of the opportunities of like, maybe you get to the goal, but maybe you do like a roller coaster there and you've got these incredible experiences. So when you show up to the goal, like, now what? Like, I can go past this. So I usually tell people, like, go down the rabbit hole. It can be a lot of fun. And at the same time, you're gaining like great experiences, great opportunities. And I think that kind of mirrors, Sasha, what you're saying. I'm saying rabbit hole, but to me, that's agency, that's initiative, that's just like trying it, just try it out. And a little example, when I first started public speaking, I went to a school, Women in Technology and Trades at Mohawk College, and there was a woman who asked me a question, and she said, I'm in my 7th year of education. She's like, I'm thinking of now going into a different direction. And like, what program do you think I should get into? And I'm like, full stop going to school. And I'm like literally in a college talking. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Mohawk. And I was like, stopped going to school. I was like, you need to get out into the field. You need to experience, like, what if you show up on site and you don't even like it? Like, you haven't experienced the life of construction by staying in academia, and academia is wonderful, but explore it, go down the rabbit hole, see what you see, and maybe that's what can guide you on that goal of, like, you know, your next step in education. But I definitely go down the rabbit hole, see what you see, and take that agency and take that initiative.
100%. I always like to say that life is about finding out what you don't want to do as much as it is about what you do want to do.
Yeah.
And I think especially for the young girls who are listening, that there are so many programs at the college, at the post-secondary, level, where you're like, oh my gosh, if I don't pick one, my entire life is over. For context, I started out as an archaeologist, and now I work for a construction company. So how did someone go from working with human bones and caribou bones to now working at a construction company talking about women in construction? So
I love it.
Your path is going to be non-linear, and that is what is really exciting about all these different options. Try one. We often say, like, throw things at the wall, see what one sticks. And opportunities. Here's a quick plug for Bolt. The job shadowing, the days of discovery, those are amazing because they are one day or they are 1 week, and you get to understand from top to bottom at a site who's on site, what is interesting to me before you plunk thousands of dollars into education. It's a really cool exposure opportunity as well. So that's fantastic. So we did actually have a couple of questions from the audience. And one I think I'm going to kind of slightly adapt. So sorry, person who asked it, but what is the first step someone interested in the trades should take? And I'm going to adapt it because, Tina, obviously you're in engineering. So I'm going to actually ask you, if someone is interested in engineering, what's the first thing they should do? You're 15 years old, by the way. You're 15 years old. What's the first thing you should do if you're interested in being an engineer?
Yeah, I think when I have people asking these questions, I always think there's a figure, like your mom think what you're doing, the people think what you're doing, and you think what you're doing. So there's gaps between people's understanding of what really engineering should be doing. So I think if I have the opportunities, like what Agnes was talking about, if I have the opportunity to get the real world experience when I was when I was a teenager, I would absolutely love to doing that, because when I was a little girl, I always just dreaming about becoming an engineer or scientist. But I don't really know what that looks like, what kind of challenges I would be facing, and what his office looks like. I have no idea. So I think if I can give you advice to the younger me, definitely connect with those organizations that provides those opportunities, or connect with the people who have the same experience, like to where you want it to be, connecting with them and just asking them the questions that you have in mind. Having those real world experience really can towards your career, like setting of your career goals. So yeah, I think that would be my advice to the younger version of myself.
Gotcha. Okay, and Sasha, so not altering the question as originally asked. So someone who's thinking about a career change, what's the first step that they should do when thinking about getting into the trades?
I'd say the first step, if you're thinking about getting into trades, is do your research. There's a website, I believe it's a government website, that lists all the Red Seal trades. Now, that's not to say if it's not listed as a Red Seal trade, it's not a trade. There's thousands and thousands of different things on there. But I'd say do your research, look into what schools provide maybe training prior to actually entering on site. That's one of the reasons I did pick drywall finishing is my husband introduced me to IFSDC, the training school, and it was 3 months of training. They gave you all your certifications. You actually got to handle tools. You worked on a little hut yourself, and I got to get the real feel for, like, do I like this? Do I not like this? Am I even good at it or not? Or can I learn from this experience? And I feel like if I maybe didn't have that experience going on to site, I may have been more nervous and pulled back a little bit more, where I know there's some trades that you don't really have that chance to have that experience prior to getting on site because you go to site and then you go to school. So yeah, my main thing I'd say is do your research. There's even YouTube is such a good tool right now. There's so many people on there explaining. You can learn how to tape your own house that way if you're specifically talking about say drywall finishing. But if you want to learn what it takes to be an electrician or what education you need, especially say as a 15-year-old woman or a man kind of in high school, if you're looking that way, I'd ask around, ask people in your family maybe that you never knew that were in the trades, anything like that. Just do your research, get a background, maybe make a chart of all the things you do like about something and the things you don't like about something, pros and cons list, and kind of see where that leads you down the road. But also keep in mind, you can always change trades. A lot of the skills are transferable. So if you start in one and then you get on site and you realize, oh, that's kind of cool, whatever that person's doing over there, ask them a question, ask them how they got into it as well. So just be very open to put yourself out there and look into things.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a try it before you buy it kind of energy from us here. And I totally can empathize sometimes where, you know, we even have conversations with folks who are curious about construction or development, saying that, you know, I've tried to do my research and I'm having, you know, analysis paralysis. There's so much out there. So 100% it is important to, you know, gather and put together either in-person opportunities or things that you could read about or watch or, you know, hear about independently at home, YouTube, through mentorship, that kind of thing. But sometimes there's no substitute for just saying, I go on site with someone. Well, I mean, you have to, there's a lot of WSIB aspects, but you know, being able to balance like the at-home curiosity research with the in the field, let's test it out, let's taste it, let's feel it, let's smell it. You know, it's funny sometimes where people are like, well, I really want to, you know, go into this particular trade. And it's like, okay, it's kind of cold outside. Do you like cold? And people are like, well, no, I hate the cold. And you're like, okay, so we're gonna just pivot a touch here, so that maybe there's something that's like a finishing trade so that you're inside. So yeah, try it before you buy it. Be curious. Those are definitely the things that I'm hearing. And Agnes, I think we've got a couple minutes left. So how do you want to answer that question? What's a girl or woman's first step to getting into construction?
Yeah, I can answer it. I was thinking, like, you know, we have the angle from you know, the engineer and then the trades. I can answer from someone who wants to open their own business.
Cool.
So I can go from that perspective, and I do give this advice to young individuals. I think people think entrepreneurs are really sporadic and really risk like heavy. That is like not the case at all. When I built my business, I actually created the framework. I created a financial safety net. I created a network of people that I could rely on. But the one thing that I had, and I really, I want to emphasize this, is my ability to bet on me. So I knew that whatever situation I would be put into, I had the agency, Sasha, the initiative, I had the resilience, I could get through something. So while I still had a plan and it wasn't risky at all for me because I had outlined all of the steps that I needed, I had learned from individuals in my network what it would be. I had the whole entire plan of like the next 3 to 5 years when I transitioned out of like a corporate job into it. Versus like I think people think you just like start up a business and like that's how it happens. No, like you plan. But the one thing you have to understand is you will have a lot of pressure on you. You wear every hat. For the first little bit, you will wear seriously like every single hat. You're the accountant, you are the business developer, you are the production manager, all of it. So how confident are you in your abilities for resilience, agency, and initiative? Because you need to bet on yourself to get through the first couple of years of your business. So if you feel you need to build up that skill set, again, don't jump into it, build up that skill set and then go into it. But that's probably the first thing I tell entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Well, the three of you, Sasha, Tina, Agnes, I think you've given us all a lot to think about, and let's all keep in mind this accelerate action. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to be about it. So Agnes, like the thing that I'm going to take literally as soon as this feed closes off in, I don't know, 45 seconds or whatever, is this idea of evolving mentorship to sponsorship. I absolutely love that. Tina, the importance of asking for help, but owning your space. And Sasha, what you said around just being ready to meet challenges as they come, and betting on yourself that you can rise to that challenge. You might be uncomfortable, but you've got the skills that kills. So I think the three of you gave us a lot to think about, and I hope girls who are tuning in, thinking about these types of career paths in male-dominated fields like a construction, like an engineering, like development, that there is tons of opportunity for us. And there are women who are in leadership positions or who are in that, senior management, middle management, who are willing to download their knowledge onto you. You're not alone. And the world is our oyster. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank our three panelists profusely for, willing to keep up with my questions that I sort of shot out of nowhere and that you didn't prepare for, but answered wonderfully. And of course, I want to say thank you to the Bolt Foundation for making this happen again. I think this is the third year that the panel discussion has taken place. And every year I just sort of be like, yeah, being a woman, being a girl, let's do this thing. So thank you all for that. Thank you both. And I'm sure if you want to learn any more about how women and girls can be supported in careers in construction development, check out boltonline.org. Lots of resources there, and this recording likely will be there too. So with that, happy Friday, and wishing everyone the best for the weekend and this International Women's Day on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.